In this session, we are going to discuss about female reproductive system. Female reproductive system consists of a pair of ovaries, pair of fallopian tube, uterus, cervix, vagina and external genitalia. So here we are going to see here, this is a ovaries. So a pair of ovaries are present in the pelvic region. Next to this ovaries, we can find this is a fallopian tube. So right and left. So that is one pair of fallopian tube is present. And this part is the uterus. A single uterus is present. Below the uterus, this is a cervix region. This is a cervix region. And then below that we can find this is a vagina. Different parts of vagina is called external genitalia. Along with that, a pair of Bartholin glands, Kinney's glands and mammary glands. All these glands, ducts are integrated structurally and functionally to support ovulation, fertilization, pregnancy, birth and childcare. So we are going to study about each and every part in detail. So first part, ovaries. So as we have discussed that a pair of ovaries are present. They are present in the pelvic region. These ovaries are pink, ovoid or almond-shaped primary sex organs. They are called as primary sex organs because they are going to produce a female gamete called ovum. And the ovary also produces a hormone called estrogen and progesterone. It also produces a hormone called relaxin at the time of parturition. So ovary altogether we can tell it produces three hormones: estrogen, progesterone and at the time of parturition it produces a hormone called relaxin. The length of the ovary is, we can find here, the length of ovary is 2 to 4 centimeters and the breadth of the ovary is 1.5 to 2 centimeters and the thickness is 1 centimeters. The ovaries, they lie in the lower part of the abdomen. The ovaries are held by three ligaments. So they are held by a broad ligaments. We can find here three ligaments will be present which holds the ovary in position. It includes mesovaria as well as ovarian ligament and suspensory ligament. These are the three ligaments which holds the ovary in position. The broad ligament, ovarian ligament and suspensory ligament. These three ligaments holds the ovary in a position. So coming to here, this is a ligament which is called as suspensory ligament. Suspensory ligament. This suspensory ligament will hold the ovary to the lateral pelvic wall. The suspensory ligament will hold the ovary to the pelvic wall. And here we can find this is a broad ligament. All this part is considered as a broad ligament and this broad ligament It also helps in holding the ovary to the fallopian tube. So this is called as mesovarian. Please remember this. This is called as mesovaria. The ligament here which is holding this part is called mesovarian ligament. And the ligament which is present here, which is holding the ovary to the uterus, this ligament is called as ovarian ligament. The ligament which is present here, it is called as ovarian ligament. So as we have discussed here, there are three ligaments are present. So this is suspensory ligament. Then this ligament is called as broad ligament, and this is also called as mesovaria. And here the ligament which is attached to the uterus, this ligament is called as ovarian ligament. So these are the three ligaments which holds the ovary in position. The ovary has hilus. So the ovary at this region, it will have the hilus where the nerves and the blood vessels pass into it. So the ovaries, if you find the structure single ovary, it consists of connective tissues. The ovary, it consists of completely, here you can find inside it is containing connective tissues. So this connective tissue completely which is present inside, we are going to call it as a stroma. It is called as stroma. So now this stroma, it is wrapped by outermost region. The outermost region is called as germinal epithelium. Germinal epithelium cells. Below this germinal epithelium, there is a flat. Below the germinal epithelium, we can find that a flat cells are present. These flat cells are called as peritoneal cells. These cells are called as peritoneal cells. Peritoneal cells. So each ovary is protected outermost by germinal epithelium. Below the germinal epithelium, there is a peritoneal cells are present, and inner connective tissue is called as stroma. Stroma, complete stroma is divided into outermost region which is called as cortex, and the inner region it is called as medulla region. So outer it is called as cortex region, the outer called as cortex region, and inner region is called as medulla region. Inner it is called as medulla region. So the cortex region and the medulla region. Cortex has dense connective tissues with the reticular fibers, spindle-shaped cells, ovarian follicles, and few blood vessels. So as we have discussed, so this is a cortex region which is having a reticular fibers, spindle cells are present, and these are the follicles. These are the ovarian follicles. So here we can find there are small follicles are present. These follicles are called as primordial follicles. These are called as primordial follicles. Primordial follicles are present. And these follicles will develop further in order to form a primary follicles. Primary follicles. So next we are going to find secondary follicles as well as tertiary or Graafian follicles will be present. So we can find here there are many follicle stages are present, and this is a ovulation. So you can find here from the Graafian follicle ova is released out, which is called as ovulation, and these are corpus luteum. It is a corpus luteum, and this corpus luteum, it also regress, and you are calling it as a corpus albicans. We are going to study about all these stages later. At present you have understood that cortex region consists of different follicle stages it contains, and blood vessels, spindle cells are present. Now coming to the medulla region. So as I told you, the medulla is the center region. So this is a medulla, a center region. It consists of connective tissues, elastic fibers, smooth muscles, as well as blood vessels and nerves are present. The cells of germinal epithelium. So as we discussed that the outermost region is the germinal epithelium. So this germinal epithelium is producing germinal epithelium cells. They undergo mitotic division and produces a cords of cells. We call it as oogonia, or it is called as egg tubes. These egg tubes will result in the form of egg nest, which later on gives rise to ovarian follicles. So if a child is female, that is in the embryo of the mother, in the womb of the mother, when the embryo is growing, there will be 2 million follicles will be present. There will be 2 million follicles will be present. So these 2 million follicles, as the baby is born, out of 2 million follicles, 50% of them will degenerate. It itself, there will be many follicles like this. So 50% of them will degenerate. At the time of puberty, a girl, we can tell female, at the age of 10 or 11, the puberty period will start. At the time of puberty, there will be 60,000 to 80,000 primary follicles will be present in each ovary. Please remember that after the baby is born, the follicles won't develop. So in the womb of the mother itself, as the embryo is present in the uterus, during that time itself, the primary follicles will be developed. No more follicles will develop after the birth of the child. So however, we can find that 450 ovarian follicles mature one by one alternatively in the 2 ovaries at the intervals of 28 days. As we know very well that there are 2 ovaries are present. The ovaries are considered as a primary sex organs because they are going to release ova. So imagine that. So right ovary as well as this is a left ovary. So left ovary. Now if this ovary is releasing, the egg in the month of January, next month, that is in the month of February, this ovary will release the ovum. So that is why only one ovum will be released per month. Only one ovum will be released per month. And that is why we are telling that alternatively the ovum will be released for every 28 days. So we can find here that if you think throughout her lifespan around 400 ovarian follicles will mature. Though she has 60,000 to 80,000 primary follicles, only one primary follicle, please remember, only one primary follicle will grow and develop into ovum every month. So around 450 ovarian follicles will be produced in her complete lifespan, because so she can produce ovum till the age of 45 years to 50 years. The ova can be released. So next part we are going to study about fallopian tube. So the fallopian tube is about 10 to 12 centimeters long and it is a muscular tube. So this is a fallopian tube as we are discussing now. So this tube is around 10 to 12 centimeters long. The function of this fallopian tube is to convey the egg from the ovary to the uterus and also provides appropriate environment for fertilization. So as you can find here, the releasing of ovum is taking place. As the ovum is released, it will be taken up by the fallopian tube. This fallopian tube will pass or transverse the ovum. At this region we can find that the fertilization takes place. So fallopian tube, or it is also called as oviduct, or it is also called as uterine tubes. So in the uterine tube the fertilization will takes place and it will send the zygote and the developing embryo into the uterus. The next part, this part is called as uterus for the further development. It is supported by, now the fallopian tube is also supported by double fold of peritoneum which is called as mesosalpinx. So at this region there is a double fold of peritoneum will be present, serous membrane will be present, and this membrane we can call that membrane has a mesosalpinx. So complete oviduct is divided into four parts. So the four parts it includes infundibulum, ampulla, isthmus region and uterine part. So coming to the infundibulum. So this part you can make out here from here to here, it is called as infundibulum region. So infundibulum is a broad, you can find here it is a funnel shaped structure. It is a funnel shaped structure. Its proximal end, at this end you can find its margin is having finger like projections and it is having a motile ciliated cells will be present, and this part is called as fimbriae, and above that it is nothing but the infundibulum. So we can find here that the fimbriae has, I have told you, it is shows a finger-like projections. It will have a small holes. It will have a small pores. Here and there it is having a small pores. Because it is having a pores, those pores, through that pores the ova will enter inside. So the ova which is present here, it can enter into the infundibulum with the help of ostium. Ostium is nothing but the pore. Ostium is nothing but the aperture or the pore which is present in the fimbriae. So this fimbriae, it also has cilia. It consists of ciliated cells are present. so that once the ovum enters into it, it transfers the ovum internally into the oviduct. So the second part is called as ampulla. Second part is ampulla. The ampulla is slightly swollen and curved part behind the infundibulum. So you can find here from this part to this part, this region is called as ampulla region. It is slightly swollen as well as it is a curved part. So it is present next to the infundibulum. So the third part here, it is called as isthmus part. It is a short, narrow and thick walled straight part that follows the ampulla. Please remember that this is a region where ampulla isthmic region. This is a region where fertilization will take place. So the next region after isthmus is intramural region or uterine part. So this is, it connects the fallopian tube, it is connecting to the uterus. This is very short part which is 1 centimeters, we can tell long it is. It passes into the uterine wall. You can find in this diagram clearly how this intramural or uterine part of the fallopian tube passing into the uterus. Thus we can find that the fallopian tube, it consists of 4 parts: infundibulum, ampulla, isthmus as well as intramural or uterine part. So next, internally, if you find the fallopian tube internal structure, we can find that it consists of outer serosa or visceral peritoneum and middle muscularis layer and inner mucosa layer. So now this is a fallopian tube. Fallopian tube, the outermost layer is called as serosa layer. It is called as serosa layer or it is also called as peritoneum. The next layer is called as muscularis layer. The next layer is containing muscles. So it contains muscles, hence it is called as muscularis layer. Internal to it, we can find that inner mucosa layer is present. So columnar epithelium cells will be present. Columnar epithelium cells will be present which secretes mucus. So columnar epithelium cells will be present. Last year you have studied about different types of cells. So here columnar epithelium cells will be present. The columnar epithelium cells, some of them are modified and it is going to secrete mucus and they are ciliated. They are ciliated. So, as it is ciliated, once it is ciliated, we can find that as the ovum enters inside, these cilia will push the ovum into the uterus. So, these are the different regions which are present in the fallopian tube. So, the main function of the fallopian tube is to provide a viscous secretion for nourishment. As you have observed that the ovum will be released into the fallopian tube, it nourishes as well as it protects the ovum. And the oviduct will open into the upper corners of the cornea of the uterus. As the fallopian tube, it is entering into the uterus, the region where it is entering, it is also called as cornua. The egg is viable only for 24 hours after ovulation. The egg will be present here for 24 hours in the fallopian tube. If the egg is getting fertilized, in the fallopian tube, the further development, that is zygote, morula stage, or that is next developmental stages will take place. So next we are going to study about uterus. Uterus, common name is the womb. So you can find here, so till now we have completed ovary, the internal structure of the ovary, what all the things present in the ovary. Then we have discussed about the fallopian tube. 3 layers are present and there are 4 parts are present. The region where the fallopian tube enters, this region it is called as carnua. And here this is a uterus. So the womb. So we are discussing about the uterus here. The uterus is large, piriform, highly elastic median sac specialized for development of embryo. So uterus is a region which helps in the development of embryo. So the structure is piriform. As you are finding the structure here, the structure of this uterus is called piriform structure. It is located between urinary bladder and the rectum. So upper there will be a urinary bladder, below the rectum will be present. So it is attached to the body wall by a double fold of peritoneum, the mesometrium. So here we can find that it is getting attached. So this uterus, it is here, it is getting attached here. Many double fold of structures will be present, which is called as mesometrium. It is called as mesometrium. So in the woman, where whoever has not bared the child, in that woman the uterus size will be about 8 centimeters long, 5 centimeters wide and 2 centimeters thick. The woman who has already given birth to a child, in her body the size of the uterus will be more. Now coming to the regions of the uterus. So the uterus is having 4 regions. So this upper region is called as a fundus. The upper region of the uterus here, it is called as a fundus. And of course, as I told you, this is a fundus which is dome shaped that receives the fallopian tube. So we can find here, so fundus. So this part is the fundus which receives the fallopian tube. Please remember, so fundus is receiving the fallopian tube. Next part is cornua, the upper corners where the oviducts enters. So here you can find here, so at this particular spot the oviduct is entering and this spot is called as cornua. Cornua. Next thing is body or corpus. So it is a main part. So from here to here it is called as body. This part is called as body or it is also called as corpus. It is called as a main part. Why? Because it is a region where embryo will develop. Embryo development will take place. Complete embryo will be developed, womb of the mother. The next part is cervix. So from here to here, so you can find this area. So this part is nothing but from here to here, this region is nothing but the cervix region. Cervix region. The cervix region, it is having internal OS as well as external OS. OS is nothing but orifice. Orifice is nothing but a narrow cavity. Orifice is nothing but narrow cavity. So cervix is containing the internal OS as well as external OS. Narrow cavity it is. The cavity of this, the complete area here, you are going to call it as cervical canal. So this area we can find here has a, so this complete here, this is internal orifice, external orifice. This complete part you are going to call it as cervical canal. It is around 2.5 centimeters long. There are certain glands of cervical canal. It secretes a mucus called mucus plug. That is nothing but it secretes a mucus which fills during pregnancy. It is like a plug it is going to form. So this mucus plug, it prevents the entry of bacteria so that it protects the developing embryo and the uterus from infections. So please remember that the mucus plug which is formed by the cervical canal will avoid entry of bacteria. It is going to avoid. So if the bacteria is not entering, it is indirectly protecting. It is protecting. Whom it is protecting means it is protecting uterus as well as it is protecting embryo. External orifice is circular initially. This will be circular. External orifice will be circular. But after normal birth, it becomes irregularly lipped. So upper part of the uterus, when you find the uterus, structure of the uterus, it will be right angle to the vagina. It should be right angle to the vagina. That position of the uterus is called as anti-flexed position. So the cervix is containing certain muscles which are more powerful. Sphincter muscles will be present. The uterus wall also has 3 layers of tissues like fallopian tube. So we are going to find which are the 3 layers of tissues present in the uterus. So it consists of the first layer, it is called as perimetrium, and the middle one is called as myometrium. Middle one is called as myometrium, and the inner one is called as endometrium. So these are the 3 layers or the tissues present in the uterus. So now, this is a uterus. So outer, as I have explained already, it is perimetrium. This tissue will be very thin tissue it consists of. And inner, it consists of myometrium, means it is having muscles. So muscles, myometrium. Usually the muscles present here, myometrium containing smooth muscles. So there are different types of smooth muscles here itself. Around 3 types you can find here. These smooth muscles will undergo contraction and relaxation, which is more helpful during parturition, that is delivery of the baby. Next thing is endometrium. The inner wall layer is called as endometrium. So inner layer is called endometrium. This part is called as endometrium. The endometrium cells will be richly supplied with the blood, and that rich supplying of the blood as well as the thickness, it will have more thickness. It is due to progesterone hormone. Because of the progesterone hormone, the endometrium will be more thickened. So this endometrium plays a very important role. So the thickness of the endometrium, it changes cyclically. So cyclical variations of the thickness in the endometrium will take place. So always it won't be thick. It will become thin, as well as again it is going to become thick. It is due to the variation in estrogen and progesterone hormone, which changes due to the menstrual cycle. So as we know that if at all the fertilization does not takes place, if the fertilization does not takes place, the thickness of the endometrium will shut down, means. So usually please remember that the uterus, see, please remember now, uterus here and the fallopian tube. I'll just draw here a rough sketch where as the ova enters into the fallopian tube, uterus will think that fertilization may occur. It will think that fertilization may occur. So, the uterus, what it will do, it will thicken this endometrium. The endometrium will become more thickened. I am writing only endometrium here. The inner wall, it will become more thick, thinking that it should give place for implantation, for the embryo to grow. But after some time, as this egg, that is the ovum, when it enters into the uterus without fertilization, then there is no requirement of thickened endometrium. So what happens? All the cells, the thickness is because of more cell division. Now because there is no use, all the cells will die. Whatever the cells which has extra cells which has grown here, all these cells will die, and these cells will be coming out of the vagina in the form of bleeding, which is called as menstruation. So this occurs if there is no fertilization. Lining breaks down and it is discharged from the body through vagina called menstruation. But if fertilization takes place, endometrium supports embryo. So if fertilization takes place, this endometrium which is thickened, it is necessary for the growth of the fetus. So that is how the endometrium plays a very important role. So the main functions of the uterus, we can find that it receives the ovum from the fallopian tube. Then it is responsible for formation of placenta for the development of fetus. So 9 months complete baby will be present in the uterus. Then so after the 9 months, completion of the 9 months, so during delivery time, as we have discussed that the uterus is containing the muscles. So with as the muscles undergoes contraction, then the young one will be coming out. So it expels the young ones at birth. In the next class, we are going to discuss about the next female reproductive parts, that is vagina as well as accessory glands.